You're listening to Track Talk with the RacinBoys, brought to you by McCarthy Chevrolet in Olathe, or visit them online at McCarthyChevyKC.com.
Welcome back to Track Talk with the RacinBoys here on Sports Radio 810. As you heard the big voice guy say, brought to you by McCarthy Chevrolet in Olathe. Check them out at McCarthyChevyKC.com. Joining us now is a guy we always enjoy talking to. We've been trying to get him on for a couple weeks, and we finally squeezed him in here. And thanks, Marty, for taking time to join us here on the show. Appreciate it, bud.
Absolutely, my pleasure, gentlemen. Good morning, Happy New Year, and I am so excited that there are going to be race cars competing tonight. I can't even stand it. It's going to be awesome.
All right, Marty. So I think we all know about all the changes. That's been all rehashed over and over and over about the fuel injection and all the changes that NASCAR is mandating with the car. What kind of action are we going to see out on the track? Are we going to see the two-car draft? Is it going to be limited because of the amount of water they have in the radiator? Just kind of give us what you think. You've seen some practice down there. What do you expect to see?
I think a general synopsis is this. I think we're going to see big pack racing, but I think the two-car draft is going to win both the shootout and the Daytona 500 because it's still the fastest way around the racetrack, and there's almost inevitably a late race caution. And when those motors don't matter anymore, they don't care if they overheat.
Right.
So they're going to hook up and go.
So when it's time to melt them down, go ahead and melt it down if you can get the win.
Let her eat. That's right. Yeah. That's exactly right. That's what I expect fully. But I do think we're going to see some big. I mean, we saw it yesterday in practice. Big pack ended up in a big old wad. Tony Stewart admitted he got into Kurt Busch, and it sent a few guys to back up cars and whatnot. So it's going to be awesome. And a lot of fans were disenchanted by the two-car draft. They didn't like it very much. I personally thought it was great. I mean, it's not Daytona, but at Talladega, finishing 4 wide for the win, 2x2 is pretty good show. But I'm elated to have pack racing back. I am a fan of pack racing more than I am of the two-car draft.
And I am as well. We were just talking about, we're going to have Jade Gerst on here talking about his new book in a little bit. So we were kind of talking about Dale Earnhardt in the greatest NASCAR race, and I've been to quite a few, not nearly as many as you, obviously, but the greatest race that I've ever been to was in 2000 at Talladega when Dale Earnhardt was pushed to the win with Kenny Wallace. The thing that day that stood out was that the crowd never sat down that day. Usually there's a moment when somebody takes a break and sits down, but because that race was so exciting with that wicker bar across the top and the pack, the way, because we hadn't seen that.
The closing rate was so fast.
It was crazy. It was nuts.
Yeah, the closing rate with that wicker bill was so fast that you just didn't know what was going to happen because, quite frankly, some of those guys in that field that day couldn't handle it.
Right.
And the one guy that we know could was Dale Earnhardt, and look what happened. I mean, you come 17th, 18th to 1st in 6 or 7 laps. That was like the ultimate where the hell did he come from moment in NASCAR history.
Yeah.
And it just, it was fitting that it was Dale. I was there that day as well. And, I love to go back and watch the end of that race. It is among my favorite races that I've ever witnessed live as well. But, yeah, who knows what Dale Earnhardt would think about it. If he was here, the sport would look a lot different. There's no debating that.
Yeah.
Because since he died, we haven't had that voice that could go in and tell NASCAR, this is dumb, this is dumb, this is dumb, we need to fix this, this, and this, and this, and here's why.
And they listen on top of it, right?
That's right, and they listen.
Right.
They don't have to listen to anybody anymore.
Mm-hmm. The big news yesterday, Marty, obviously, is Chad Knaus, the 48 car, Jimmy Johnson's car, the B-pillar NASCAR, makes him take it off of the car. With his previous record of suspensions, do you see a suspension coming out of this, or how do you think NASCAR handles this?
It certainly wouldn't surprise me, and NASCAR said yesterday that is certainly a possibility, but, they definitely do. They definitely do have issues with Chad Knaus. They definitely do look closer at his race cars than they do anybody else's, and he's more scrutinized than any other crew chief in the garage because he has pushed the envelope so much during his career. Mm-hmm. And it's impossible for me to say whether there'll be suspensions or not, but I will guarantee it will be mulled over by the powers that be in Daytona. I don't think that it's going to affect them in the Daytona 500 at all. They said expect penalties after the 500. You'll see Chad Knaus on the pit box, barring any further issues, of course, in the Daytona 500 next Sunday. And, they let them change it. It was embarrassing for them. There's no doubt about it. If you think it's not a distraction, you're nuts. Because it takes time. They have to fly people in to fix that. And it's certainly a limited practice time. So, it's not good for them.
Yeah. Marty Smith joining us from ESPN. Marty, electronic fuel injection, from your conversations with people in the garage area, will this have an impact any way in the racing out on the track?
No.
Not in my opinion. I mean, everybody seems to be happy with it. It costs a ton of money for the owners. That's the biggest impact. Other than that, I don't, aesthetically, from the grandstands and sitting on your couch with cold beer, you're not going to know any different, really, unless something unforeseen happens. That is the general consensus in the garage right now. It may impact fuel mileage to a tiny, minuscule degree, but guys, to be honest, I just don't think it's going to be that different.
Yeah. Marty, what do the teams think about the change of the body coming up? We're not too far into the car of today, and now they're going to do another body change. Are they happy about that? Because it costs money. We know that. It's going to be a big model change, right?
That's the bottom line right there. I mean, it costs the owners more money. It's still a race car for race car drivers to drive. I don't think they generally care. If their performance is there, that's what they care about. They care about going fast. Now, the fans love it because they're going to be race cars that look like race cars. It's very interesting to me, guys, how we've gone in such a big circle here in about the last decade. We've gone from, cars that looked sort of like production cars to NASCAR saying everybody's going to have the same car and they'll be able to run this car at Martinsville and they'll also be able to run this car at Talladega, to that just not being the case. The fans hating the wing and hating the splitter. So they take off the wing, they put a spoiler back on. They take off the splitter, they put a valance on. And now we have cars that look like those cars 10 years ago. And we're going to go back towards body styles that look more like production cars, which it's just, I think it's another admission on NASCAR's part that they made some bad decisions. And the owners end up paying for it. So I'm happy about it, but it's not my money, but I'm happy about it. I think the cars look fantastic. We've seen the Ford. I expect the Dodge to just look awesome, and I look forward to seeing the other makes as well. I mean, it's going to make NASCAR look different, and I think cooler.
Do you think the fans appreciate NASCAR admitting when they're wrong? Because there were so many years that they would not admit when they were wrong. Now they're openly, saying, "Well, we've made a mistake here," and they try to do a little spin control. And I think the fans have got a little traction with that. I think they appreciate that.
Yeah, anytime somebody's wrong and they admit it, people appreciate it. And I don't. To NASCAR's defense, they don't go and make those kinds of decisions for. They don't go and change a race car for no reason. And I think the reason that they brought the car of tomorrow in had everything to do with the fact that the teams were a decade ahead of them technologically. I think that's the main reason that new car came in my opinion. Now, excuse me, I think that the new car, the 2013 car, is an admission that last project was a bad idea. Let's try to start over again, look more like production cars, be more aesthetically pleasing to the fans, try to rebuild that brand equity that was so synonymous with NASCAR for so long and has died. The manufacturers are still very proud to win. But when I was a kid, you loved Chevy or you loved Ford. And you hated the other make if you were a NASCAR fan.
Some of us are still that way, Marty.
What's that?
I said some of us are still that way.
Yes, that's right. That's right.
Right.
I understand that. But are you telling me the new fans are? I doubt it.
No,
the new
I hear
fans
you.
have allegiance to people, not makes.
Yeah, I hear you.
And I think that NASCAR wants to try to recultivate that for the manufacturers and build some buzz for them too.
Marty, so many interesting stories going into the new season with the changes. Casey Kane now finally with Hendrick Motorsports and Kenny Francis, his crew chief. He won a race last year for Red Bull Racing. You got to think he's going to be a contender right out of the gate. Clint Boyer moving over to Michael Waltrip Racing. You've got Darian Grubb, now the crew chief
Changes
for Denny
everywhere.
Hamlin, who was a championship contender. Will Carl Edwards be able to rebound from that close loss last year and contend again? Among all of those scenarios, which one of those interests you the most going in?
Edwards. Definitely Edwards. All of them interest me very much. I expect a lot out of Casey.
Mm-hmm.
I think anything less than the top 7 or so finishing the points and a couple wins is a disappointment, quite frankly. Clint Boyer I know he's your boy.
Right.
I expect a lot out of the 15 too. They I was asked by my colleague Alan Bestwick on the NASCAR Now show recently who I felt like was going to have that breakthrough Brad Keselowski type year, and I picked the 15.
How about that?
Because Clint has a ton of talent. He felt disrespected at Childress, and now he goes over to Michael Waltrip's. He has one of the most brilliant minds in the garage in Brian Patty on top of the pit box. The guy builds the prettiest cars in the garage. And Toyota is fully invested.
Mm-hmm.
So I expect a lot out of the 15.
Well,
but Edwards, to me, I'm sorry?
I was going to say Michael Waltrip Racing has really elevated their team with the rotation of drivers they have this year.
No question, it's the best driver lineup they've ever had. I mean, you're bringing in Mark Martin's experience. Martin Truex has to step up. He knows that. Martin Truex is a very good driver, and they were very fast at the middle and towards the end of 2011. They just couldn't close the deal.
Yeah.
And I think that they have made some progress there. I think the absolute biggest portion of the Michael Waltrip Racing hierarchy that kind of flies under the radar is the fact that they added Scott Miller.
He's the big key.
When RCR added Scott Miller as its competition director, they elevated him from crew chief of Jeff Burton's team to competition director. It completely changed that racing organization.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, they went from real bad to real good fast.
Yeah.
And I expect Miller's outlook and overseeing that competition department will pay massive dividends for Michael Waltrip Racing.
Can you touch on the disrespect part just a little bit? Where did Clint feel the most disrespect from RCR?
I just don't think he felt like he was appreciated there.
Yeah.
And I think that it really began to
eat at him, huh?
Create a rift between he and the organization that was irreparable, ultimately.
Yeah. Some people say that the reason that Clint left and Childress didn't take the 5-hour money was because Clint wanted too big of a cut of it. Do you know if that's true?
I don't know if that's true or not, but
yeah.
I mean, wouldn't surprise me. If he's bringing the money,
why not?
Wouldn't you think? I mean, if you bring money to the table, wouldn't you want some of it?
Yeah, no doubt. All right, before we let you go, the Bud Shootout Selection Show was on last night, and I think the biggest news, other than Martin Truex getting the pole, was that Kenny Wallace spent $18,000 on hair plugs.
Well, here's what I have to say about that.
Yeah.
God is very good. He gave me a lot of hair.
Yeah.
I'm glad I don't have that issue. I will save my 18. Thank you.
It would cost me a lot more than $18,000, my friend. That's all I can tell you.
That's a lot of loot, boys.
That's big-time bucks. But it was kind of funny. McMurray was standing there right next to him. I don't know if you saw that. And he goes, it is really getting uncomfortable in here right now.
That got awkward pretty quickly, yes.
It really did, didn't it?
But, that's why we love the Herm. He's an open book, baby. He brings it.
Yeah. And how about Boyer? He kind of threw a little shot at Herm for winning those 2 races, insinuating that his tires might have been a little prepped up, too. That was some good stuff last night.
Yeah, I expect, that's why we love Clint. I did a story recently, we lost Neil Bonnet back in '94, and I did a story recently on it being the 18th anniversary of his death, and I talked to Mike Helton, NASCAR president, about Neil and his impact on the sport and what a great guy he was, and I asked him, who reminds you of Neil in today's NASCAR, and he didn't hesitate. He goes, funny you asked that, because I told somebody the other day that Clint Boyer is the Neil Bonnet of today's NASCAR.
Kind of goofy guy, has a lot of
driver.
fun. Right, yeah.
And he's hilarious. Yeah, I mean, the guy's full of life, and he's just a joy to be around. He makes everybody around him happy. And that's a great quality in somebody.
Hey, Marty, I can't let you go without asking you about the Busch boys. They're always a big topic of conversation, Kurt and Kyle. How well do you think Kurt Busch will do in that Phoenix ride this year?
He's got an opportunity to win plate tracks.
No doubt.
He's one of the best there is on plate tracks, and anybody can win those races, and it's Hendrick stuff. So he's going to be good in the Daytona 500, guys. He's going to be good at Talladega as well. They may have flashes of brilliance here and there at the Martinsvilles and the Bristols because he's so good there. But, I mean, I don't expect a chase spot for him.
Yeah.
Will Kyle Busch be able to rebound and contend the way everybody thinks he should?
That's a no-brainer.
I think so. A lot of people are picking him as their championship pick. I'm not. But he's a blessed kid. A lot of people that have made those mistakes probably wouldn't have kept their job. But it speaks to how talented he is.
Yeah.
That by no means gives him a pass. But that's why he's still racing at Joe Gibbs. And I think that he continues to learn. He continues to realize the ramifications of his mistakes. And I'm telling you, last year he tried really hard to become a better person. And I know that it's a work in progress, and I appreciate the fact that he is trying.
Mm-hmm.
We're all trying to do that every day. If we're not, there's something wrong with us.
Yeah.
And if he can just continue that and realize that he did make a mistake at Texas and move along, I know he's matured from it, and he knows it was a stupid mistake. And, I mean, ultimately, it may make him a better driver. I think the opinion of many of my colleagues is that might be the moment that wakes him up.
I agree.
We shall see.
I agree, and I will tell you, I think Kyle gets it more than his brother does. I think that his brother could really care less. He's kind of shown that in his actions. He's been at this longer, but I've seen steady improvement of Kyle Busch when it comes to his attitude. Even though that he had that implosion there at the end of the season, I thought all last year, man, he's starting to get this a little bit as far as how to handle himself. So I think he's – let me ask you this. Do you think that Kyle Busch will end up owning his own Cup team, and ultimately that's where his brother will drive?
Listen, guys, if I could – nothing in this sport surprises me anymore.
Right.
Nothing. I mean, nothing.
Right.
So, sure, possibly. I mean, I don't know.
Yeah.
All I know is absolutely nothing surprises me anymore.
Yeah.
We have seen a two-time champion leave his team to go run another team in Tony Stewart recently. We've seen all manner of crazy drama happen. We've seen, nothing surprises me anymore. Sure.
Yeah.
I mean, if it doesn't work out at Joe Gibbs Racing, he's going to have other opportunities, guys. I mean, that's why Kurt Busch is driving for Phoenix.
Right.
Kurt is driving for Phoenix this year because it soured at Roger Penske's and he got let go, and he didn't want to sign a multi-year deal. He wanted to be the marquee free agent this summer.
Right.
So he went and took the Phoenix gig. He had other offers.
Yeah.
Will A.J. Allmendinger win a race and contend for a chase in that 22 car?
Definitely his best chance, absolutely. A.J. can drive, guys. He was fast in that 43 car at the end of last year.
Right.
So he will contend for wins, yes.
I've got 1 minute before we got to get out, Marty. Quickly, is NASCAR going to do anything about the points and people giving points with Danica and everything that you're seeing? Are they going to do anything about that?
No.
Obviously, there's a problem with it, but what can they do, really?
I don't think they can do anything. I think that it's a monster they've created, and the team's figured it out.
Yeah.
And, I mean, if they put their foot down and say you can't do this, then, it changes the business model, doesn't it?
Yeah, no doubt.
And, I mean, you look at a guy like Tommy Baldwin. He went, started a team, built it up, got some equity, and sold that equity.
Mm-hmm.
Now he's going to have an opportunity to have an alliance with Hendrick Motorsports and Stewart-Haas Racing, and think how much better his team's going to be. Pretty darn smart on his part. He played the cards he was dealt.
Yeah.
And doesn't make it right, in the fans' eyes. It seems a little skewed, but he didn't do a thing wrong, guys.
He's just playing by the rules, right? Yeah.
That's right.
All right, Marty, thanks so much, man. Appreciate it. Look forward to talking to you down the road this summer and seeing how things are going out there on the tour. Appreciate it.
You guys are fantastic. Call me anytime you need me. Thank you.
Marty.
All right, Marty.
There he is, Marty Smith.
Yeah. And,
he's my favorite guy on TV.
Oh, by far. My favorite guy. No doubt about it. All right, we're going to take a break. When we come back, Jade Gerst is going to join Kirk and I here on Track Talk.
Track Talk.